to get access to any of these platforms, one of the things you're going to do is check that little box and say, I agree. Now, unlike me, who has a bit of a law background, I read that fodder and it goes to pages and pages and pages. Most people don't. What you're opening yourself up to, and this is interesting, this is sourced from a post from a blog called Storify this year. And you can read there on the screen that in terms of third-party apps, being anything to do with social media, advertisers and social media sites themselves, many people often ask what they initially agreed to years ago when they clicked I agree. With Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, where you make that primary agreement, you lose all exclusive rights to your own content. So what does that mean? That means that anything that you basically post on Facebook or Twitter becomes public property. It becomes Twitter's property, it becomes Facebook's property, and if it's a product that you're posting about, the manufacturers or the owners of that product can actually use what you're saying publicly without your knowledge, and also without you having to give any approval to that. So there's a warning there. You want to be very careful what you actually post about certain things, because there's an example actually out of the States quite recently. A guy filmed his young kid at a table playing with a certain toy. I won't mention the brand, but what happened was that the manufacturers of that particular toy really liked the video, and they grabbed it and they used it for an advertising campaign that went national, went right across the northern United States. So basically, he tried to sue them, and he didn't have a leg to stand on, because you still have rights to your content, but anything that you share, whether it be photos, videos, or even your posts, can actually be picked up by somebody else and used. So even if you've deleted your profile, the rights to your information are yours, yet it's shared with the platform that you've chosen to utilize, and that platform's audience, and however they want to use your information. So a big warning there, people, that you need to be very conscious of what you're commenting on, what you're sharing. Privacy. Let's have a look at privacy. Again, you all probably play around with this occasionally, and later in this webinar, talk through some tips and hints as to how you can optimize what you're doing on Facebook and Twitter and other platforms. But it's something that is really worth visiting. Right, this is a screenshot of where are my privacy settings, how do I edit basic info on my profile and choose who can see it. When I post something, how do I choose who can see it? And that's actually your news feed. You can do that. How do I change the audience of a post I've shared on my timeline? The good thing about Facebook in particular gives you a lot of control. It gives you a lot of options. And I really encourage you to take some time to actually navigate around the Facebook platform, because often we jump on it with our phones or our tablets or whatever it might be, or even on a desktop or a laptop, and you're so busy responding to things. A good example is that in a news feed, every post that you make, you've actually got a choice whether that just goes to your friends or whether that goes out publicly. And that is, there's a little arrow on each of your status updates, and if you click that arrow, it'll give you the option as to whether you're sharing it with the world or whether you're sharing it just with your friends. And that is a really useful little device, especially when we get a little bit further through here and we talk about being a brand ambassador. So I want you to meet these guys. Yeah, they look a bit stupid. They are robots, and they're what sits behind the coding for a lot of these sites. So Google was one of the first platforms to actually install. You might have heard of a thing called cookie, which is very invasive and it trolls your computer. Well, what interprets what's going on with cookies are robots. Robots, the terminology robots comes from a code actually that was developed, and for example, there's Google bots. These little guys, these widgets, troll everybody's pages, they troll other websites, search engines, and that's how they become incredibly intuitive and incredibly powerful. Now, every day there is a huge amount of money being invested by these organisations, Google, Facebook, Twitter, etc., upgrading their technology and making them smarter and smarter and smarter. One of the things that you may have noticed is that, or you may not have noticed, but I've certainly noticed it probably in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, is if you ever use Messenger, which is a part of Facebook, or platforms like that, and you're actually talking about, for instance, your car broke down on the way to the stables, and you've posted something personally in a message to somebody on Messenger, or you've actually something on Facebook, you'll notice that fairly quickly you'll start to get a lot of served sponsored advertising from Facebook suggesting that you might need a new car. Now, how do they do that? It's the robots that are doing it. So, fortunately, they're not human. They work 24/7, and like I said, they're very intuitive. So, again, when it comes back to your privacy and your information, be very careful what you're actually posting, because it will also influence what happens with your own newsfeed and what actually goes into your own newsfeed on something like on Facebook, for example. Again, back to privacy settings, they do help. Spend time to explore them. Go back through all the platforms that you use and really try to understand. I know it sounds a bit boring, but try to understand who can see your information, who can't see your information, and how you can actually use those settings and tools within the different platforms to make sure that you have a little bit of control. So social media and you. Sorry, Annie?
A question?
Yes.
Sorry, did someone have a question? I sort of, something came in. I don't know whether someone's got their mic on, which is fine, but if type the question, just in case we're cutting out. Just having a look. Maybe not. James, keep going. If someone types a question, I'll...
Okay, not a problem. So social media and you. In July 15, 2016 is a day that'll never be forgotten on the internet family. It's not 2016, that's a typo, people. It's the day that Jack Dorsey, microblogging and social network sensation Twitter became live and operational. Also the day that agents and PR reps everywhere felt a cold shiver down as they could almost sense that their star athletes' clients would soon pass beyond the realm of press release protection. And what we mean from that is, in media terms, this has always been a very controlled space. PR agents have managed their very, very closely, what they say, how they say it, and they've ensured that it's been very well filtered, they've been very well protected. Since Twitter's inception...
Can I ask a question in regards to what you're saying? Before Twitter came along, you were able to access any, do searches on any press or anything that came out on media on any particular athlete. So you could do a daily search of yourself as an athlete or client or whoever it was, and find out who's writing about you anywhere in the world, correct?
Correct. Media monitoring.
Media monitoring. So the people could do it. Then when Twitter came about, you're not able to do that to include that.
You can. So an agency can monitor, and often with celebrities, obviously women's athletes, companies, they do pay a lot of money for media monitors to actually make sure that they're following what's coming through on people's Twitter feeds. Often they're employing mediators to make sure that the interaction that is happening, you're not actually talking to many of these celebrities themselves. Obviously, they don't have time. They have a team of people that are actually monitoring and doing their communication for them and on their behalf.
Sure. I do know that Edwina does this with her social media. She has a proper social media Facebook page, etc., etc. She has someone that monitors just to make sure people are writing correct things, and just next.
That's right. We all don't. We'd all like to get to where Edwina is. It'd be fantastic, and we'd all like to have the money to employ a team of experts to manage, how we're viewed. I suppose publicly, but it's since Twitter came along, and I think this is a really, really interesting point in this statement, that you can commit career suicide in 140 characters or less. And we read about it all the time, but it's something that you really need to be aware of, that, all in clicking one little innocent blue button. And as I say later in this presentation, you don't need millions of Twitter followers. You can have 10. But the way Twitter works is that you all know it's shared, people will repost, and it becomes viral very, very quickly. Don't let this be you. You need to be very, very careful with how you use Twitter in particular.
Can everyone just make sure you've got your webcam sound off? Just turn your mics off, because I'm hearing some talking. Okay, keep going.
Okay. And here's an example recently, if I can get this to come up, which it should. Okay, this is only about a week ago, and you can see here that a weightlifter has returned home from the Pacific Games in Papua New Guinea after a post on social media that appeared to refer to locals as cannibals. So Fraser Vimbakargal posted tweets from Papua New Guinea to Instagram with the hashtag, hashtag cannibals. The New Zealand Olympic Committee spokesperson Ashley Abbott said the committee was deeply disappointed by the comments. Social media is immediate, and obviously the effect that it can have is just as immediate. So it is something to be very, very aware of, that sorry, I'm just trying to bring it. Here we are. The response is just as immediate, and one of the most insidious things about social media is, when you go to sleep, it's still working. So we talk about crisis management a little bit further on, and I hope that you find that quite interesting, because I've got some good tips in. So there's a personal athlete who's made a major blunder. Donald Trump did one very recently, and he has lost a huge amount of business over that. He made a comment quite publicly, which went out on social media, about Mexicans, and basically a lot of his political alliance removed himself. His business partners are removing himself, and it's had a real financial impact on him. I'm going to now show you something which this is a bit of a fun video. It runs for about 5 minutes, I think. Qantas, you may have all heard some time ago, when Alan Joyce, the CEO, took over Qantas. He came under intense pressure from staff to industrial action, basically, and he grounded the fleet of Qantas. It was unprecedented in Australia that this would happen, but he went ahead and did it. He took the unions on head to head, as have some other people in their past careers. Interestingly, at the same time that he was doing this, the right hand of that business didn't know what the left hand was doing, and basically his media team, his marketing team, released a competition via Twitter that you could basically tell us why you would really like to, in 140 characters or less, tell us why you'd really like to experience first class on Qantas, and we'll send you a set of pajamas. Well, stupid stupid promotion as a start. Who really wants a pair of first class pajamas? I don't. It happened the same morning that he grounded the fleet, so you can imagine the comments that came through on Twitter were, well, if we could get a plane, if we could get a pilot, we might have somewhere to wear those pajamas. The public was absolutely enraged. It was very bad, miscoordinated as a company. This escalated so that somebody actually developed this this YouTube clip, which then went viral. So I'm going to play it to you because it's quite entertaining, and I hope you enjoy it. And we'll come back to the presentation after you've watched this.
Dem Fall gelungen, die Front in breiter Formation zu durchbrechen. Im Süden hat der Gegner Zossen genommen und stößt auf Staatsdorf vor. Der Feind operiert jetzt am nördlichen Stadtrand zwischen Frohnau und Pankow. Und im Osten ist der Feind bis zur Linie Lichtenberg, Marsdorf, Karlshorst gelangt. Mit dem Angriff Steiners wird das alles in Ordnung kommen. Mein Führer, Steiner konnte nicht genügend Kräfte für einen Angriff massieren. Der Angriff Steiner ist nicht erfolgt. Es bleiben im Raum Jodel, Krieg und Butter. Das war ein Befehl! Das ist kein Befehl! Wer schickt sie? Ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbessert, Feindjäger, Verräter, Versager! Mein Führer, was Sie da sagen,
Ja.
Sich ohne Ehre! Akademie zugebracht haben, nur zu lernen, wie man besser gammelt!
The major core population generally.
Ich hab geletzt! Ich hatte Luther an der Zahl! Und dann alle Höheroffiziere registriert haben, wie Stalin! Europa erobert! Verräter! Von allen Anfang an bin ich so verraten und betrogen worden! Es war ein ungeheurer Verrat geübt der deutschen Bande! Aber alle diese Verräter werden bezahlt! Mit ihrem eigenen Blut werden sie bezahlen! Sie werden das saufen eigenen Blut!
No, but if it's all right, so
Es ist unmöglich, uns diesen Aufstand zu
what was that?
Okay, I think you get the point. If any of you actually see that video, it's fairly easy to Google. Just look at Qantas fallout. It went viral. It was a massive problem for them, and basically, you know, you don't want that to happen as a corporation. You certainly don't want that to happen as an individual. It's harder to manage, I think, as an individual. People can attribute blame, comments at a company like Qantas. Coles supermarkets have been in very similar situations. Most large corporates have. From a personal point of view, it's a much more difficult thing to manage. And so that's where we come to this little saying. Words are like spilt milk. You can't put them back in the carton. So I've worked in media, major media organisations for many, many years, and you know, blunders happen, things do happen. You need to be very, very aware of what you're posting, what you're talking about. It's as you develop as an athlete, as you develop your own brand, as you develop your own profile, what comes into play with that are organising committees like the International Olympic Committee, the Australian Olympic Committee, Equestrian Australia themselves as an association, and your sponsors and people that put a lot of trust and faith in your ability as an athlete to grow and develop. And social media is a part of that. It's not something that you can turn off, or that, you know, you're not expected to actually develop a fan base or followers and supporters. You want to embrace them, you want to engage them, but you want to use social media to optimize how you actually do that. So my suggestion is, you know, if you're going to write something, write it down there. If it's something to do with your own brand page, which we're going to get to in a minute, not your own personal page, look at it, make sure it's spelled properly, read it again, maybe get somebody else to look at it before you actually post it. Sounds boring, but it's a lot more work to try to put the milk back into the carton. Basically, it's impossible. So you need to be very, very cautious as to what you're actually putting out there, because you can't take it back. So a few tips. As I said, you don't need thousands of Twitter followers or Facebook friends for something that you write to become national headlines. Social media is predicated on its viral nature. So it is designed to build an audience. It is designed to be shared. It is designed to be commented on. Another good tip is saying less is often saying more. You know, if you're going to post something, you know, you don't need to ramble on. The rule of thumb is write something, cut it by 2/3. It's far more interesting and it's far more engaging if you actually write something that's more succinct. Manage your personal accounts and public accounts separately. You can create both as a professional athlete, and ensure that you contain your personal information on your personal account, and lock this down to trusted friends and family only.
Managing your fans.
Sorry, James Arkins, if you're there, can you mute your mic, because I can hear you talking. I can hear your conversation. Can you hear me, James Arkins?
I'm trying.
I can hear you chatting away there. Just a little mic on the left-hand side.
Can't do it.
Oh well, you're just going to have to shush then. Okay, sorry, James. Newman, keep going.
Okay.
Someone put
it's quite funny that
tape over James Arkins' mouth.
Okay. Next thing's quite funny. It's understand the settings of Facebook, Twitter, and other platforms. Maybe, James, you need to understand how to use your computer. It's a case in point, isn't it? You need to navigate around these things. Think before you speak. Think before you write a post. It's simple, people. It's not difficult, but take some time. Don't be lazy. Don't be in a rush, and think about what you're actually commenting on. And one really important thing, especially if you build your own brand presence, your own brand profile, as opposed to, you know, your own personal profile, which I think as athletes you all should. Stay away from personal crusades and causes. One of the key reasons for this is it might be a very passionate thing for you, but it may not be for other people. It may also not be something which is endorsed by these associations that you are in association with. It also may not be something that your sponsors are interested in either, so or associates or affiliates. So use that on your own personal page. Absolutely, you have every right to say and get behind a cause or your own personal crusade, but from an athlete's perspective in a public profile, be very careful what you endorse and what you become involved in.
So, James, you're just sort of saying here now, like, it's probably good for these riders to be able to set up their own professional athlete Facebook page and to be utilising all those crusades and things on their own private personal page, but on the professional page to be, you know, putting content and things that particularly is branding for themselves and their riding, etc.
Yeah, absolutely, Annie. It's you know, this stuff all takes a bit of time, and like I said earlier, the whole thing with social media is it's also predicated on fast responses, speed, the ability to interact with people, to chat. But where you start to build your own brand, you know, you do have the option, and I'll get to it a little bit further through this presentation, that you do have the option to build your own brand page. And there's some great ways that you can maximize that. There's great ways that you can integrate that with your own sponsors or people that you want to show support to as well. And it all comes down to communication, and it all comes down to having your own plan. And think about writing down a plan as to how you want to be perceived by your followers, by your sponsors, by your fans, that eventually, you know, hopefully you'll build a great fan base. And, you know, be conscious of that. Actually put together what your media plan is. Stay away from things that, you know, you open the door on a personal cause, you're opening the door on people to comment. You're better to engage through some of the tips that I've got here. You know, Facebook is intuitive, so you can use that intuition and those robots to your advantage. Whatever you post repeatedly or share on Facebook will actually recognize that and select associated posts for your newsfeed. So not everybody sees in their newsfeed, and this is interesting, what you post. It is determined by interest levels. So the more popular things that are posted on Facebook, it's actually impossible. Newsfeeds would run at milliseconds if Facebook was actually serving everything that you post. So if you've got 1,000 followers on Facebook personally, you post something, it will only be the followers that have an interest in what you've posted, or a more likely or higher level of interest, that will actually find its way into their newsfeed. So a lot of people don't know that, but you can use that to your advantage. Look to have people follow you and not friend you. Setting in Facebook where you can actually turn on followers. And I encourage you to do that if and when you go away and build your own athlete brand page. It turns your friends into followers. Followers have limited capability of can actually access. They can all comment, but they have much limited capability than your friends. Make sure that you do like, comment, and share other people's items. Again, in your own sort of personal media plan, you want to say, well, what am I interested in as an equestrian athlete? I want to make sure that your feed is actually getting filled with things that you do support, you are interested in, and is relevant to your own brand page. By doing that, it actually teaches Facebook what you like, what you want to see in your feed, and it will start feeding that into your feed. Hide things that you don't want to see more of. For example, or things that didn't your own profile. Facebook will then show you less of these in your newsfeed. If you go into your newsfeed, on that little downward arrow on the top right-hand side of everybody's status posts, you can actually click that and you can choose to hide a post. Go ahead and do it with things that you're not in or things that you don't want on your own brand page, and Facebook will actually start to filter those out for you. Each post has an I don't want to see this item in the drop down as well on the right hand side, as well as hide that item. So it will ask you why you don't want to see it. You can give a reason, and again it will start to filter that content out of your newsfeed. Unfollow and defriend people who are too noisy and who reflect badly on you. It's interesting, and if you couple this with the next point, which is put everybody into lists as either close friends or acquaintances, you can basically select all of your friends and make this selection. It makes your feed dramatically better and helps you to manage your own news feed as well. So on this one page, you've got a whole heap of options as to how you can maximize and almost manipulate what your own news feed looks like as an athlete brand. You can do this personally as well. It makes your news feed far more interesting. It filters out a lot of the rubbish that you don't want to see, or your friends, family, and followers don't want to see. You actually have a lot more control, especially with Facebook. Obviously, Twitter works differently than you probably thought.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, James Arkins has asked a question. How do you have people follow you, not friend you? That right, James?
Okay.
How do you have people follow you?
Yeah, that's getting into the detail. But if you go into, there's I'd have to bring it up. later when I might you and you can share it with James.
Yeah.
Because it's a few steps you've got to go through on Facebook, but you can open up the option for followers, and it's a fantastic thing to do when you're building. You create these settings right at the beginning of once you build your page. So with questions like that, if you want to park them, Annie, I'll actually answer those.
Why don't we just do that, and then I'll get you to just sort of do it on an email, and I can share it with everyone later. How's that?
Yeah.
If anyone's got any specific questions, just write them there. Then I'll kind of gather them together, and James and I can kind of pull them together. So I'll give you an opportunity. I'll send out after the presentation, send me all your questions, and maybe by next week we can come back with some follow-ups on your stuff.
Definitely, that's not a problem at all.
So anyone else want to do that, just sort of let me know.
You know, a few points here as well. Check all your security settings at least once per month. For example, if you install updates to your apps or on your desktop, often all the settings on Facebook will go back to their default position. So don't be lazy with it. You know, once a month, go through there, check your settings, and make sure they're where you want them to actually be. Turn on all your security features like two-factor authentication. People who do this normally don't get hacked. You don't care, you will when you get hacked, and more of your information becomes public to people that you don't want that information to be public to. Do this for your email accounts and other social media apps, and you might have a question as to how to do that. Again, send that through to Annie, and we can give you some tips on how you can actually put in two-factor authentication. Don't let people post to your page without your permission. I absolutely detest this on my own page, and basically I will hide those posts, and I'll ask people not to do it. These are their opinions, they're not yours. Some of you might think, yeah, that's cool, don't really care. If you build your own brand page, you want to have complete control over that, and make sure that people aren't just putting posts up there on your behalf.
Ask them, that means that if I type into a message at the top and I go, hey, James Arkins, I'm sending a message to going in onto his page and I'm typing something to him. So it says, Annie, leave it to James Arkins, and I've just typed some message I want to send him.
Yep, that's one way. You can actually purposely just post something onto somebody's page.
Yeah, like when you're naming people in a
you can name the shortcuts with Facebook, but you can also select when you're creating a post to post it directly to somebody's page, and it doesn't even necessarily need to be a news feed.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a few widgets there that there's a lot of shortcuts with Facebook.
Yeah.
In particular, and they're aware of them. People do it. Facebook's very clever because they're there to generate more business of their own business. So they create these shortcuts. People say, oh, this is really cool. I can just do that more directly, or you can use an @ symbol now at James Newman at Annie Lever. And it will do the same thing fundamentally. So by doing that, you're actually posting onto somebody's page, and it's something to keep control of, is the post being put onto your own page. Don't be afraid to use Messenger and discuss posts or behaviour on your page with friends or followers or other people. Make sure that they respect that you're building a public profile, you want to maintain a public profile, and if there's something that's inappropriate, don't be afraid to have the conversation. Don't just defriend people. Sometimes people aren't as aware of your position as they should be. Sometimes it's very simple to send them a message and say, hey, don't think that was appropriate. Really appreciate it if you didn't do that. And people generally do listen.
So your private message.
And yeah, correct. Take it offline. Don't make it public. And if you've got somebody's email address, do it that way. Have a chat to them. Pick up the phone, for God's sake. It's not all about social media. Call somebody if you know them that well, or send them something through Messenger and have a discussion about it. I said earlier about the options that you have, friends or world. It's a little world symbol, the public symbol, or your friends, two little people. basically on all your status posts. I encourage you to use it. And once a year, do a social audit, especially on your own brand page. Go through and consciously clean up your own lists, clean up who has access. If people don't post to your page, if they're not interactive with you, then they're not really building your social media presence as well. So what I'm saying is this is not all about locking everything down. It's being aware, but it's also looking at how you can grow your own profile as an athlete and as your own brand. And some of these tips really contribute to being able to do that. So again, back to privacy settings, go into Facebook, have a look at your privacy checkup, who can see my stuff. Click on those links, go through them, and just become far more familiar with the controls that you've actually got around your own social media platforms. And you touched on this earlier, build your own brand as a public figure. These are the options when you want to build a page in Facebook. You go into building a page. You've got local business or place, company, organisation, institution, brand or product. That's actually not you. You're not a can of baked beans. Artist, band or public figure. That's the one that you want to click on. If you click on that, you can go through the steps to actually build your own brand as a public figure. And I encourage you to play around with that. And again, if you want to go ahead and do that after this webinar, send some questions through to Annie, and we'll answer them as best as we actually can. Okay, I should take a breath. Are there any questions, Annie?
No, not at this stage. I guess by running through this now, people will go away and give it some thought and probably maybe even have a go, everyone, at starting to set up your own, as a writer, your own public brand. And if you've got questions, just shoot them through to us. Anyone got anything right now that I think some of you have already done this with your businesses anyway. But, open to discussions if you want to drill down further or you want to expand what you're doing. Thanks, James.
Okay, I'll keep going. So what happens when it all goes wrong? And as I mentioned before, many years in working for major media organisations, it does go wrong. I think Warren Buffett puts it really well here, that it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things quite differently. And I go back to being really conscious about what it is and what it is that you post, how you engage with social media, and how you engage with your followers or friends.
Sorry, can I just step in there just for a minute? I know this is kind of the next step on because the crisis level, often within equestrian sport, things happen or things happen to you personally or things happen to your sport. Something happens within show jumping and we kind of want to close ranks and to help with the crisis level. So I think that there's a twofold thing with this, one within your own kind of personas and one within a broader perspective. So that's kind of, I did ask James to touch on those sorts of things. Okay.
Yep. There's just winding back a little bit, on the Equestrian Australia website, there is a social media policy. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Important that when you're a part of an association like that, that you are familiar and adept at actually interpreting and understanding what those boundaries are, because you are a representative.
Well, particularly that you are on a high-performance squad, not only are you really need to know that social media policy. You have to be very, very careful what you do and you say, because you're actually linked in with the Australian Sports Commission now as a listed athlete on a high-performance squad, and you have obligations to making sure that you protect yourself and that you protect our sport. And whatever you think of Equestrian Australia broadband, you need to be very, very cautious, is what I'm saying. And that's kind of
absolutely
being a professional athlete.
and every professional athlete in the world has to be conscious of the organisations that they belong to present and the impact that can actually have. If it control far enough, it can affect funding models, it can affect all sorts of things, not just sponsorship. So it is a level of responsibility. It's, you know,
it shows
it's hard enough.
With the New Zealand guy that made the comments, as you said earlier, and they just sent him home and they took him out of the program and no funding or anything. So that's kind of, you know, what happens.
It's a direct result. So I'll keep moving because I'm conscious that we're at 8:15. So the crisis level, something goes wrong, and we're not going to get into detail of what that might be. But what I want to touch on here is determining if this is really a crisis and what level the crisis is. So when we're talking about crisis management, this applies to a very broad spectrum of industries, but obviously specifically this is about your own brand, and hopefully you never have to look at something like this because you've listened to what I've said earlier and you're far more aware and conscious of what it is that you're posting and where you're actually putting your comments, where they're going out to. Basic crisis level management is about determining whether it's a level 1 crisis or a level 2 crisis. Level 1, for example, is a personal statement or comment which you disagree with, or you take as a personal attack on yourself or somebody or something associated with you. Is this a reaction to a post or comment that you've made? It's something which is relatively contained, and we'll go through how to deal with these 2 different levels of crisis a little later. Level 2, as a base, can have career and personal reputational damage to you, your associations, and potentially sponsors. This has reached the broader media and has taken on a life of its own. You never want to find yourself at a level 2 crisis as a personal, as a professional athlete. General rule to crisis management: if you're going to build, maintain, and be prepared to be open to criticism about your performances, relationships, and statements. Have a plan as to what you will allow people to know about you and what you will and will not comment on. As I've said earlier, stay away from personal causes. If a crisis happens, make sure you have developed a plan appropriate to level 1 or level 2. Social media moves very fast and keeps moving when you're not paying attention to it, so be prepared. So when we're talking about building a media plan, I touched on this earlier, go away and give some thought to what it is that you want to present to the public as a professional, what is required of you under the guidelines, as Annie was talking about just a couple of moments ago, and how best you can actually use social media to build that to your own advantage without falling into one of these holes. So developing a plan, firstly determine if it's a level 1 or level 2 crisis, understand who this may affect. This will assist you in determining your response if you have any response. One of the key things I'd say, if it's a level 1 sort of thing that you think you're involved in or crisis that you think you're involved in, really strongly consider whether it's something that you want to respond to or not. Sometimes silence is the best approach. A key part of your plan is understanding what is expected of you. You can determine what you expect from yourself personally, yet as an athlete you're often seen as an ambassador for brands and sponsors who align with you, the association or governing body you belong to, EA, AOC, IOC. What do they expect? They all have guidelines, understand it, and try to play within those guidelines. It's pretty imperative. Speak with your associated bodies about your crisis management plan and understand how they would expect you to behave and respond. So this is all about developing people around you.
They can always ask, sorry James, anyone got any problems with crisis management or anything they're concerned about what they should be saying or not saying, or if it's something they should be commenting on, you can always send me a message and ask. Not a problem. Exactly,
and that's the best example of having the conversation. It may seem really alien to you to even, as athletes, need to think about this stuff, but I really encourage you to, because if and when it happens, you want to be prepared. and organisations have to deal with this all the time. It's not foreign, and you'll actually build more respect going and talking to users and associates about this because they know that you're taking your role as an athlete and as very seriously. Develop a team of people around you you can trust who are independent and who have yours and your associates' best interests at heart. Speak to them about your plan and alert them that you may call on them at some time to discuss something like this in the future. If something goes wrong, you want to make sure that you've got an independent, smart, intelligent person that you can go to who is removed from the situation, who you can talk to about it. And Annie's just given you that offer. Think before you act.
Also outside of the equestrian world that you could ask to, or a mentor or someone that can help.
Absolutely. It's really good to have somebody who's independent that can, you know, sometimes what we think is a really major crisis to do with social media, when you kind of step back with a the cold hard light of day, and you get somebody else's eyes across it, they'll have a different opinion. Think before you act. How far this goes all depends on how you react to it. Take the time to formulate the most appropriate response, if any, as I said earlier. If it's a level 1, often you're actually better not to respond to it. So, level 1, comment a statement via social media which you deem as an attack on you and or reputation and or in response to a comment you've made. Step 1, remain calm. You know, plan, you've given this some thought, and remind yourself how best you can manage this. Step 2, ask yourself if it's worth responding to at all. If there is an expectation that you should respond, often with a level 1 crisis, you're best to do nothing. Remain silent and allow the comments to pass. We actually see our federal government do this all the time. It's not foreign to us. We would, you know, love to I suppose, to get more engagement sometimes, but politicians are very, very good at doing this. And one of the key things is if you continue to engage, you continue to fuel the fire. So really keep that in mind. And I'm sure we've all had little examples of that using platforms like Facebook. Step 3, discuss with your team as per your plan if it's really troubling you, and get fresh eyes to look at the situation. Step 4, if you choose to respond, you're potentially digging a hole, as I just said. And this can further fuel the fire. As a public figure, you're open to a lot of scrutiny, and often you're better off to walk away and not feed the feed, as in a Facebook feed. You always have the option to confront this out of the public view. Again, like I said earlier, take it offline and into a personal context, telephone or face-to-face meeting, or potentially, you know, have a chat through Messenger and try to resolve something that way.
And from my perspective, I think also it's a time, if you're thinking you're going to respond to something someone has said, often it's best to say, I'm going to leave it and sleep on it. Think it through, and the next day you normally wake up and think, well, it's not as important as it was to me yesterday.
Exactly. It's a really good point, Annie, and I suppose the flip side of that is, because social media does move very quickly, that you do need to be prepared, and if you are going to make a response, it is expected that a response is going to be quite timely. So it's treading that line. It's fantastic to sleep on something, but if you're at a level 2 crisis, it probably is going to demand a response. It's going to demand a response fairly quickly so that you protect your brand and the people associated with it in responses. So this is where something, you know, I would deem something a level 2 crisis if it's being picked up by the broader media. If it's now control, it's off your platforms, it's hit the news, it's hit your radio, you've really got a problem. Again, step 1, remain calm. Refer to your plan, understand what's happened. Step 2, not hide from this and think that it way. Immediately seek advice from the team you've established. No doubt by one of them would have probably already called you if it's got out into the broader public eye. Depending on how serious this is, you may be best to seek a professional public relations representative or an expert in media management. You do have choices. even if you think you don't. The most important thing is to work out a response plan in conjunction with your associates and sponsors. So I'm really encouraging you to have conversations before it happens so that there are no surprises and people are prepared. You always have the option to confront this again out of public view. Take it offline into a personal context and try to resolve it. So you can see that there's some good advice there. There's no perfect formula for crisis management. It's often reinvented, but you know, that's a basic guideline. And again, it's always about preparation. So to wrap up, sorry, almost an hour of me prattling on. As one fantastic media giant once said,
"That's all," which exposed the exploit. That's all. That's all. That's all. That's all. That's all.
So that's all. We'll throw to some
That's her saying,
questions.
it wasn't playing so well, so.
Sorry.
Okay, and the word
Maybe we'll.
media giant, that's all. It's got nothing else to say. Oops, have we lost you, James?
No, you've got me.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry, I might have just had a problem with some. I'm just checking my connection. No, I'm all good.
Thanks, James. That's great. Any questions? Keep going. Anyone got any questions? I guess not at this stage. So I kind of encourage you all to have a go at or send me a link to, if you've already got a professional page, to have a go at that. Set it up. Get yourself some good photos and some. You can put your horse videos and sponsors and everything within your page. It's good for you to have a little bit of a search around at people's professional pages. I think Edwina's is Edwina Alexander Show Jumper. She's got her own private page, but she also has the one that says Edwina Tops Alexander Show Jumper. So take a little spin around some of the pages that some of the riders are doing. Have a look what content they're putting on. I suggest Instagram, have an Instagram account, Twitter. Very cautious what you're saying on Twitter. Anything else there, James?
No, you do have, you know, as you get down the path with all of this stuff, you do have now some off-the-shelf, they're called dashboards. If you know, become super successful, as I hope you all do, and you have a huge amount of followers and fans, then you can actually manage most of these platforms through one dashboard, which is an application you can install on your computer, and you can choose with anything that you want to post or say where it actually goes. Twitter, Instagram obviously is different because it's about photos, but Twitter, Tumblr, as well as Facebook and any other platform, Dig, etc. So there's you know, ways that you can manage your own social media fairly effectively
without having to spin around through them all separately.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
With the dashboard, is that a software that people have to subscribe to per month in order to do that?
Yes, you do have to subscribe to it. There's stuff that you can download online, or there's stuff that you can actually load onto your computer, but most of it's just done via online now.
And can you give us an example of one that, you know, people could go and have a look, or do they just search for?
Yeah, if they search social media dashboards. Just Google social media dashboards. That'll bring up a whole heap of different options. But it's something that you know, it's not really necessary probably at the early stages. It's once you get a huge fan base and you're managing, you know, people into the millions, that you know, where there's an expectation. The bigger your fan base, the bigger your followers, the more expectation there is that you're going to be communicating with them more regularly.
So I guess at this point people are wanting to know how they can actually get more fans following them, and how they can access to have people like their site, those sorts of things. So
there's going back through some of the tips that I gave you in the presentation, where Facebook is concerned. That's follow the things that you like, follow the things that are a part of your interest group. If there's a way to actually grow likes if you are a business. Facebook is now very much about advertising. There's again commercial ways that you can go about that, where you can build your likes to a professional page in the thousands very, very quick in weeks. It's a paid campaign. It's quite low cost. It's targeted. That's probably a whole nother session, Annie, of that one. But it is very effective, and it's very low wastage as well, because you're actually attracting people that are interested in what you've got to offer. On a personal basis, it's a matter of follow the people that have good followings. Make sure that you communicate and engage. Social media is there to engage with. I'm certainly not saying to people don't engage, be scared. Be aware of what you're doing, but the pages that you like, the groups that you like, all of that contributes to you growing your own friend base and your own fan base.
And that kind of is important then for sponsors to be able to say to a sponsor, look, I've got 3 or 5 or 10,000 followers on my site, so therefore to be giving exposure to their products and services and things like that, it's good go get for you.
Yeah. Of course, it's you're leveraging the value that you're not just a brand they're not just a brand on your back. You actually have a commercial tool that you can offer sponsors because they're obviously sponsoring you because they're interested in the sport that you're doing. If you've got a big fan base or a lot of followers, then that can really contribute to the value that a sponsor gets out of you. A really good example of this is Taylor Swift. She's a social media genius, and look it up, guys. If you have a look at Taylor Swift's social media, she really knows how to work it. She knows how to manipulate it. She's got 46 million followers on Twitter, 13 million Instagram followers, and over 71 million Facebook fans. And she's actually held up in kind of media circles as a bit of a guru as to how to really push her own brand. And the way she does that, especially through Tumblr, which is the latest thing that she's embraced. And a lot of people aren't as familiar with Tumblr. I think it's more popular in the States. Is that she engages with people. When she first opened a Tumblr account, the first thing she said was, "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. I need help." As soon as she did that, her followers went up in the thousands. Because she was making herself accessible. She was engaging with an audience. Tumblr is very much about a community, creating a community. And, she was asking fans, saying, I'm going to lock myself in my bathroom until I work out how to work this Tumblr thing. Has anyone got any advice? Very, very smart move.
Hey, James, I'm just going to ask everyone if you can type in an answer to this question. Would anyone be interested in James doing another session on maybe what content to have on your athlete page and some of the leveraging techniques that are used? If you'd like, I can set up another kind of webinar with James at some point. Just let me know. Just, okay, yeah. Okay, so everyone's going absolutely. So maybe, James, we could set up another session. I think to begin with, if everyone can kind of get going and try and make yourself a show jumper, like a brand, social media brand page yourself as a professional athlete, I'd like to see that first. And ask a few questions over the next couple of weeks that, James and I can perhaps come back and give you how-tos. And once that's up and going, we'll then look to have another session, if that's okay with you, James, to do something on content and leveraging and Tumblr and so we kind of keep going.
Absolutely, Annie. I think send your questions through, guys, to Annie, and like she said, we'll answer as many as we can. But also, when you're sending stuff through to Annie after this session, give her a list of what you'd like to know more about, so that it can really direct me, and I can make sure that I can deliver on what it is that you're most interested in. If you have your own businesses and you want to know how to build likes and stuff like that, especially where Facebook is concerned, then we can have a session on that. So there's kind of the personal side and then there's the commercial side, but more than happy to, Annie. So send through your own.
Yeah, that's another question James just asked, which we did I thought we kind of did cover. Do you think we need to have an athlete page and a separate personal page? 100%. You do, you need to do it. And so on your professional athlete page, it's all about you as the athlete, the things you're doing, the horses, the sponsors, the owners, all the things that you like, leveraging yourself and things, and your personal page is to do with your personal life, and anything to do with what you're doing in yourself.
And lock your settings on your personal page to your friends only. So again, that could be another session of a bit more detail, Annie. But go through, find how you can lock that down to your friends only, and you're not posting to the world. You're posting to your friends.
Yeah, to sort of get that. So you're now going to suck down probably what you've got on your personal page to just your personal friends, etc., and have that a bit more private, and bring up your other ones and try and get everyone to like your athlete page, so that it's all about branding of you as an athlete. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so
perfect.
Listen, thanks, James, very much. Any other questions, James? Okay, if you already have an athlete page or business page, would it be possible for James to have a look at that to see if it's heading in the right direction? I'm sure he can.
Absolutely.
Yep. No problems. If you want to send me an email, Nicole, and I'll sort of pop that through to James, and we'll go forward with that. Anyone, you can just send me an email. Okay, look, James, thanks very much. I'm just getting thank yous from the riders now coming through. Thank you very much, and I hope everyone's really enjoyed it. And of course, any questions or anything, send via email. Everyone's going, thanks, James. So brilliant.
Terrific, guys.
Fantastic.
I hope I've helped a little bit.
Yeah, look, no problems. And look, hope you guys, I know you're really busy getting ready for shows and things, but it would be great if you could start having a little go at building the other page, and keep in touch with me. I'm middle of the day here now. You can always try me on Skype or send me a Facebook message, and I'll definitely come back to you with some bits and pieces. So thanks, everyone, and you can log out now. I've recorded this, so at some point I'll pop it through if anyone wants to have a look at it again. Thanks.